coming out of AA, we've been beaten down basically with our self-esteem, with our self-worth. And definitely, I think that we should be interviewing these therapists and making sure that we find aligned help that is aligned with what we actually need. Welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. I am Kirsten, your hostess today, and your friend here as we are on this Deprogramming AA series on the Sobriety Bestie podcast. And so today we are going to be talking about how to find a qualified therapist. Yesterday, we talked about, is your therapist stunting your growth, and what might happen if you have a therapist inside Alcoholics Anonymous or who is inside that ideology when you're trying to deprogram and get out, and the potential hazards, dangers, and harm to your well-being and mainly your freedom, agency, autonomy, growth, potential, self-esteem, self-worth, lots of things, lots of reasons why that's not a vibe necessarily. It's for sure not a vibe I would choose. The question is, what's right for you? It's all about your own critical thinking and trusting yourself. And today we're going to get into what Dr. Janja Leitch, I think is how we say her name. She's a cult expert. Dr. Janja has on her website, I'll link her website below, how to find a qualified therapist. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to read through her website and give you what's there, her help and her information for you. So here are some things to consider when you're looking for a qualified therapist. What is their license or their accreditation? What is the training and expertise? Do they have experience working with trauma? What types of trauma? Note that experience with complex PTSD would be helpful. These are literally questions that you can ask them. What type of therapy do you practice? What would that look like in my treatment? What if I'm not comfortable with the type of therapy you practice? How will we resolve that? Are you reachable in a crisis and emergency? If not, can you provide me with resources that can help me should that happen? Do you have any training or understanding of the impact of cults, thought reform, coercion, or abuse? Do you practice hypnosis or other trance-inducing techniques? Note, some types of therapy using New Age concepts, guided visualization, and hypnosis may be triggering. Proceed with caution. This might not be super relevant for AA specifically, but trust yourself. How do you explain your fees, sliding scales, and cancellation policy? How do you set treatment goals? What does that process look like? If I am uncomfortable with something you suggest, how should I handle it? Those are some of the questions that you may consider asking when you are interviewing a therapist. And yes, it is about interviewing the therapist. You are allowed to find one that fits you. This is not grab whatever sponsor is available because you're a newcomer and just get bullied into high control baloney. This is about finding your way to freedom and making sure that you have the right kind of guide that feels right with you and that you feel safe with this person and that it's a fit, right? Again, I'm on Dr. Janja's website. Additionally, you might want to ask these questions after your initial assessment. These are questions you would ask yourself. Do I feel heard, understood, and respected by the therapist? Did I feel like the relationship was collaborative with the therapist, or were they like an expert and I was the pupil? Was the therapist willing to understand and make adjustments if there was something that made me feel uncomfortable? Was the therapist open to referring me to somebody else if they did not have the level of expertise needed to address my therapeutic needs? Was the therapist open and direct in answering all of my questions? Did the therapist seem sensitive, intelligent, and mature? Did they seem to be someone with whom I can feel safe? Was the therapist open and willing to learn more and work towards understanding more about my specific area of need? When I left AA, and then I had a therapist that helped me deprogram, and then I got diagnosed autistic, and I hired a therapist who specialized in autism, and she was not autistic herself, but her son was. And she also did internal family systems, which is my favorite kind of therapy. But I noticed after the first session, I think I did 2 sessions with her, that there were moments in the session where it would have been perfect to go to IFS, and I was really disappointed that she didn't. And I even asked if we could, and she said no. She kept it all mental. So it's like she had the training, but the way that she was working with me was literally, she had me do a whole trauma dump, like write down the most traumatic experiences of my life. That was brutal to actually go through my past and write everything down. Even though I've done a lot of work on these things, it's never fun to like have the task to go look through your past and write down the most horrific things that you've experienced and like look at it and then to talk about it and tell the person. So for me, that was not what I needed at that time. I felt like I was getting harmed within the treatment, Now, I'm going to do like a little H harm. This wasn't like traumatic or anything, but the actual treatment itself was feeling harmful to me. And we weren't going into the underlying emotions that were coming up. We were keeping it all mental. So I was just getting triggered without any resolution. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel that we were really going through stuff. So I found another therapist. It's so important just to trust ourselves. And does this feel right or not? And I know coming out of AA, we've been beaten down basically with our self-esteem, with our self-worth. And definitely, I think that we should be interviewing these therapists and making sure that we find aligned help that is aligned with what we actually need. And I've had a therapist before, completely opposite from that, more recently, who was also about autism and ADHD. And I've never felt more seen in my entire life. Like, it was such a good fit. So there are good fits out there, and it's about finding, like, you're not going to marry the first person you meet, right? You don't have to like stay with the first therapist you try. Other things to keep in mind from Dr. Yanya's website. 1, above all, trust your own judgment. If for some reason you did not feel safe or were dismissed, that's enough. Yes, if you did not feel safe or were dismissed, that is enough. Look for another clinician. That's exactly how I felt with that autism therapist. I felt I didn't feel safe and I felt dismissed because I literally said, can we do IFS right now? And she's like, no, kept it all mental. And I was like, my emotions were like so open though. Like, she opened up all my emotions and then just kept going. And I'm just like, whoa, this isn't fun. Another thing to note is it's okay to stop therapy at any time. Dr. Yanya says you can stop therapy at any time. At any times, you have the gas pedal and brake. Your therapist should understand and respect this. Therapy is for you, not for the therapist. She also says any therapist should understand the basics of ethical practices, including non-sexual relationships with clients, caution around any touching boundaries in relationships, and no dual relationships with clients. All of these areas should be openly discussed and navigated in a safe and respectful way. If you have any other ideas about how to find a qualified therapist, especially when you're deprogramming from Alcoholics Anonymous, please add it to the comments below. If you yourself are a therapist, let us know if I missed anything. Give a little shout out in the comments and tell us what might help to create that safe space in therapy or an environment where you can feel seen and heard. If you don't feel safe, and it's not going to be healing. That's how I feel. If I don't feel like I can be seen and heard and express myself, then it's not as powerful. It's not what I'm looking for. So what is it that you're looking for? What are your thoughts on finding a qualified therapist, especially in the context of leaving a high control group like Alcoholics Anonymous? I look forward to seeing your thoughts in the comments. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.